You feel the pressure tightening around your life, and you cannot explain where it is coming from, but something inside you knows that this is not just exhaustion, not just discouragement, not just another passing season. There are moments when the silence of people wounds you more deeply than their words ever could, and the strange distance of certain relationships begins to feel like a warning. You notice the sudden shifts, the unexpected resistance, the closed doors that make no logical sense. Something is happening around you, and even though you try to ignore it, your spirit is alert, searching for answers. The truth is that many sons and daughters come to this moment of the journey unaware that spiritual snares were set long before they ever saw the symptoms. There are traps designed not to destroy your body, but to suffocate your purpose, weaken your faith, and blind you to the path God already prepared. You stand in that threshold between confusion and revelation. And this is the moment where God interrupts your thoughts and exposes what human eyes cannot see. The urgency is real because the delay has been costly, and what you failed to confront has grown roots you never intended to water. God speaks now with a clarity that breaks the fog inside you. You exist, and because you exist, you perceive the void left by moments where you trusted the wrong voices, where you carried wounds too heavy to name, where you felt hunted by circumstances that refused to explain themselves. Yet this void does not appear to condemn you. It appears to awaken you. The psalm you are about to uncover is not a prayer of comfort. It is a cry for survival, a plea from a heart that knows danger is near, a declaration from someone who discovered too late that enemies do not always strike from the front. Some of the greatest ambushes in your life were whispered, not shouted, and the traps around you were crafted in silence by hands that once pretended to help you rise. Psalm 64 is the revelation of someone who finally sees the truth. You too are standing in that revelation. The snares against you were real, but the God who exposes them is greater, and the turning point begins now as the spiritual fog begins to lift. There are battles you never chose, yet they arrived with precision, as if guided by an intelligence that watched your every step, waiting for the moment your guard slipped. The invisible war around your life has been shaping itself quietly, through glances that lasted 1 second too long, through conversations that changed when you entered the room, through the subtle tightening of spiritual pressure that you kept trying to explain away as coincidence. You sensed it, you felt it, something in the atmosphere around you shifted. Psalm 64 describes this atmosphere with unsettling accuracy. Moses faced enemies whose greatest weapon was not the sword, but the tongue, sharpened like a blade. Words crafted not for communication, but for destruction. Whispers designed to produce fear before any visible attack. You, son and daughter, have been targeted in the same way. You wonder why your heart carries so much heaviness, why your thoughts feel invaded, why your strength is drained even when your schedule is not full. Hidden words have power, especially when spoken in darkness, and many of the emotional storms inside you began with conversations that never reached your ears but touched your destiny. The enemy studies the fragile places that life has carved into your identity and strikes with precision where your confidence trembles the most. Yet the God who speaks to you now refuses to let you remain unaware. He tears the veil from the unseen realm, revealing that this pressure you feel has a source, but also has an expiration date. The urgency you sense is not fear speaking, it is your spirit recognizing that the traps designed against you were never meant to have the final word. This is the moment where God interrupts the cycle of confusion and declares that your emotional exhaustion is not weakness. It is evidence of warfare, evidence that you were never fighting imagination, but spiritual opposition. In Psalm 64, the cry of Moses becomes your cry as well. Protect me from those who hide their intentions, from those whose tongues strike like arrows, from those who set snares in the shadows. You stand now in the tension between danger and deliverance, but you are not alone in it. God steps into the battleground with you, and what once felt like an overwhelming flood becomes the first sign that your protection has already begun. The war is real, but so is the shield that covers you. Every snare set against your life began long before you ever sensed danger. The enemy never strikes from the front. He studies patterns, watches silences, and waits for the exact moment when your heart is most vulnerable. That is why certain seasons feel strangely coordinated, as if multiple pressures aligned with impossible precision. Troubles arrive in clusters, discouragement grows without a clear cause, and people who once walked beside you begin acting in ways your mind cannot explain, but your spirit immediately detects. Psalm 64 reveals this strategy with unsettling clarity, exposing how the enemy hides in shadows, planning attacks where human sight cannot reach. The battle is never about the obvious. It is about the hidden conversations, the unseen intentions, the internal fears that do not surface until they are weaponized against you. The enemy aims for the place where your confidence fractures, because the most effective trap is the one set in silence. This is why God confronts you with urgency. The greatest danger is not the snare itself, but failing to recognize it before you step into it. Many sons and daughters mistake spiritual ambush for personal weakness, believing they are collapsing when in truth they are being hunted. God refuses to let you live blind to the tactics formed against your purpose. He brings revelation not to create fear, but to prepare your escape. He exposes what is hidden, so you do not fall into the cycle that has destroyed generations before you. The spiritual world is not neutral. The enemy calculates. He waits. He adapts. And if you do not discern the signs, the trap tightens without mercy. Yet here lies the shift that transforms this entire moment. You are no longer walking unaware. God sharpens your perception, allowing you to sense danger before it forms. What once disguised itself as confusion now stands unveiled. You begin to understand why certain friendships dissolve, why specific opportunities were delayed, why your peace suddenly fractured in seasons when everything seemed calm. These were not random disruptions. They were alarm bells. They were warnings. They were God pulling you away from paths where hidden arrows waited for the perfect angle. Moses cried out because he understood the severity of an enemy who hides. You are being called into that same awareness. This is not paranoia. This is spiritual intelligence. And the moment you recognize the strategy, the snare begins to lose its power. You are stepping into a realm where God teaches you not only to survive the ambush, but to walk ahead of it, protected before the attack ever forms. The shadows lose their advantage the moment light enters. There comes a moment in every spiritual battle when God no longer allows the trap to remain hidden. You have been walking through seasons that felt heavy and unpredictable, but what you did not see was that the enemy was positioning himself with precision, believing he had already secured your downfall. He crafted lies meant to wound your reputation, attacks meant to break your courage, circumstances designed to bend your faith until it snapped. He assumed that the silence of God meant the absence of God. He assumed that your exhaustion meant surrender. He assumed that you would never rise with enough strength to resist what he had prepared. Yet Psalm 64 carries a revelation the enemy consistently forgets. The snare he builds becomes the very weapon that destroys him. The ambush he sets is the place where God exposes him. The arrow he sharpens is redirected by the hand of the Almighty. What was formed against you becomes the stage where God displays his justice. This is the turning point the enemy never anticipates. When God enters the battle, the hunter becomes the hunted. The one who whispered against you begins to fear the sound of their own voice. Those who hid their intentions discover that nothing remains concealed when God decides to reveal what has been buried in darkness. There are schemes collapsing right now because they depended on your ignorance. There are traps breaking because God refused to let you step into the cycle that was meant to destroy your calling. You are not watching the downfall of your enemies by coincidence. You are witnessing the fulfillment of a spiritual law. God is not reacting, He is reversing. This is why the pressure intensified before the revelation. The enemy fights hardest when he is losing territory. He wanted you to mistake warfare for failure. He wanted you to believe your fatigue meant defeat. But the pressure you felt was not a sign of collapse. It was evidence of divine interference. God was already breaking the structure of the snare long before you asked for help. He was already lifting His shield around you. He was already positioning you for victory. The emotional heaviness you carried was not a punishment. It was the sound of chains breaking. Now God calls you into alignment with this transformation. He invites you to declare with authority what heaven has already begun to enforce. Right now, as a prophetic act that seals your deliverance, God, expose and break every snare set against my life. This phrase is not merely spoken. It is legal in the spiritual realm. And when you declare it, the enemy is reminded that his plans are collapsing under the weight of divine justice. You are stepping out of the hidden battlefield into visible protection. What once threatened your life will now testify of your deliverance. There is a moment in every believer's journey when the battle shifts from what is happening around them to what is happening within them. The snares set against your life did more than threaten your path. They attempted to distort your identity, silence your confidence, and convince you that God had stepped away from your story. Yet Psalm 64 reveals something extraordinary. Before God destroys the trap, He restores the person. Before He silences the enemy, He strengthens the soul. Before He confronts the accuser, He heals the wound that made the accusation feel true. You, son and daughter, are standing in that holy moment where God becomes your witness and your defender. He does not merely observe your tears, He responds to them. He does not simply acknowledge your fear, He transforms it into discernment. He does not overlook your exhaustion, He turns it into the foundation of your authority. This is the internal reversal the enemy hoped you would never reach. Every whispered attack, every hidden word, every silent betrayal was designed to erode your sense of worth. The enemy's true strategy was not to destroy your life, but to weaken your voice, because a silenced identity is easier to trap. Yet God steps into this fragile space and speaks with a clarity that realigns your heart. He reminds you that you are seen, heard, and defended. He shows you that none of the pain you carried was wasted. Every disappointment exposed a false foundation. Every betrayal redirected you toward truth. Every tear watered the soil of the revelation you are receiving now. God becomes the one who stands with you in the silent moments where no one else understood the weight you carried. When the world misread your struggle, heaven recorded your endurance. This divine intervention reshapes your perception of the battle. You begin to understand why certain people were removed without explanation, why specific paths closed at the moment you expected breakthrough, why the spiritual pressure seemed to strike in waves. God was not abandoning you, He was preserving you. He was removing you from environments where snares had been set, from relationships where danger disguised itself as comfort, from expectations that would have crushed you had you continued walking blind. What felt like loss was actually protection. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. Now the shift becomes undeniable. You do not stand in this revelation as someone overwhelmed. You stand clothed in spiritual clarity. God lifts your head and reminds you of the identity the enemy tried to bury. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are not vulnerable prey wandering in darkness. You are a child secured by divine justice, guarded by a God who exposes every hidden snare before it reaches you. This is the moment where your spirit breathes again. where your heart regains strength, where your identity rises from beneath the weight of lies spoken in shadows. God is not only revealing the trap, He is restoring the one the trap was designed to destroy. There comes a point in every confrontation with darkness when God not only exposes the enemy, but establishes a new order over your life. You stand now in this decisive moment, where what once felt like relentless pressure becomes the ground where divine protection takes root. Psalm 64 closes not with fear, but with triumph. The same God who uncovered the hidden plans now surrounds you with a shield that cannot be broken. The same God who revealed the enemy's intentions now writes a different ending for your story. You are stepping into a dimension of supernatural protection that does not depend on your strength, your awareness, or your past performance. It depends entirely on the one who has declared himself your defender. What you feel rising inside you right now is not confidence in yourself, but confidence in the God who has proven He is fully aware of every ambush designed against you. The fear that once held your heart hostage loses its power as divine clarity breaks through. You begin to understand that the attack you survived was not random. Your endurance was not accidental. The pressure that nearly crushed you was the place where God positioned His victory. Every snare the enemy prepared became evidence of how fiercely heaven protects you. The downfall of those who plotted your destruction is not a result of your retaliation, but of God's intervention. He did not allow their success because His purpose for your life is larger than their intentions, and His covering is greater than their schemes. This is the moment where your spirit stands firm in a truth the enemy hoped you would never discover. You walk protected not because danger no longer exists, but because the presence of God surrounds you with unshakable authority. The shadows where your enemies hid no longer intimidate you. You have seen what happens when God rises to defend His child. You have witnessed what occurs when He reverses the strategy of darkness. The traps lose their power, the arrows lose their direction, and the plans formed against you collapse under the weight of divine justice. Now God turns your attention to what comes next. Protection is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new chapter. You are called to walk with eyes open, heart restored, and spirit strengthened. God invites you to step into a life where fear no longer dictates your decisions, and where faith no longer bows to pressure. This message reached you because heaven saw the battle you could not describe, the pain you could not articulate, and the exhaustion you tried to carry alone. Today, God declares an end to isolation and the beginning of alignment. You do not walk unguarded. You do not walk unnoticed. You walk under the covering of the Almighty. If this message spoke to your soul, subscribe and like this video so that YouTube understands this content brings healing, not harm, and allows more people to receive God's protection. Open your heart now and pray the prayer Jesus taught us, the Lord's Prayer, allowing His words to seal everything God has spoken over your life.